2012 Acura MDX rear brake job. I'm Brian Eslick from How to Automotive. I'm going to walk you through the steps of replacing the rear brakes. Okay, the first step is going to be to get the vehicle up in the air. And if you're doing this at home, use floor jacks and jack stands and jack it up on the body mounts here. And go ahead and remove the rear wheels. So after removing your wheels, you want to make sure that the park brake is not engaged. Okay, we're going to get started by removing the 12mm bolt here and here. And I'm going to use my my combination wrench here. It's made by Mountain. It's about 18 inches long, and it's an amazing wrench. It has a flex head, and it's adjustable. Anyways, if you guys have never seen one of these, I recommend you check them out. I'll leave a link for them in the description of the video. These things are amazing. They save me so much time. So go ahead and remove the top and bottom. Once you get the top and bottom bolts off, you're just going to take the caliper off like this, kind of flip it up and set it on top of the suspension here. Next, on the back side of here, there's going to be 2 bolts. They're going to be 17 millimeters, and I'm also going to use my my combination wrench here and remove the 2 bolts in the back. And like I said, these wrenches, because they're so long, they have so much leverage on them, it makes doing brake jobs really easy. Here's a view from the back so you can see the bolts. There's the top one and the bottom one. Okay, now that the bolts are off, go ahead and remove the bracket, and you'll just set this aside. Now I'm going to remove the rotors, and they have 2 set screws here, one here and one here, and you're going to need an impact screwdriver like this to get these set screws out. It's like almost impossible to get them out without them. So the way this works is you insert the screwdriver bit into the set screw, take a hammer like this, and you strike it on the end, and that has a mechanism inside that spins the screw out, and then you can go ahead and twist the screws out. Now you can go ahead and remove the rotors and slide them off, and we're going to chuck this up in our brake lathe and machine this particular one. Or if you wanted to replace the rotor, then you would just simply slide on your new rotor in place of where this one, and you would check your park brake adjustment. And I'll go ahead and show you that now. So when you slide your new rotor on, or after you're machining this, you're going to need to adjust your park brake. So you'll slide the rotor on, and you'll rotate it, and you want to feel that park brake shoes, they touch the inside of the drum here, and they drag. So you want to feel this shoe drag a little bit, and if it's loose, it'll spin real freely. And if it's loose, then what we need to do is right down here is an adjuster wheel, so you can adjust this. I like to do is just adjust it 1 or 2 clicks with my fingers here, slide the rotor on and turn it, and feel that drag of the shoes dragging on the inside of the rotor. And once you get it where all you need these to do is lightly drag the inside of the rotor. So after chucking this rotor up into my brake lathe, I'm going to give it a light cut on it and make it nice and smooth again. If you guys don't have access to a brake lathe, what you could do is take this rotor down to a local repair shop, tell them what year, make, model the rotor came off of, and they can measure it out for you, make sure it's thick enough to be machined. And if it's in spec, then they can machine it for you for a small fee, and then you come back and you reassemble your brakes. Or you can order new rotors. Rotors now, they are really cheap, and you can get them for almost the price of the labor of doing the rotors. So you can look into it that way, both ways. I'll leave a link in the description of the video for some quality rotors and brake pads. That way, if you guys need to pick those up, you can get those. If you're sliding on your new rotor or machining your rotor and putting on, you also want to line up the little the screws for the set screws. And also, when you want to go to adjust the park brake, there's also a rubber plug here that you can pop out like this. And once you get it popped out, you can look through with a flashlight, kind of like this. And then you can see the adjuster wheel inside there, and you can stick your screwdriver through or your adjuster through and adjust. So you'll adjust the adjuster wheel through here like this, or you can slide the rotor on and off and adjust it with your fingers, whatever's easy. Okay, after the park brake is adjusted, go ahead and reinstall the cap. Reinstall the set screw here and tighten those down. You don't have to torque them down or anything, just tighten them until they're nice and snug. So now we need to prep the bracket here before we put it back on. And I'm going to go ahead and remove the old brake pads. Okay, now that the pads are off, if your pads came with a new shim kit, hardware, I recommend you change it out. If it didn't, then what you can do is take a wire brush like this, and you can scrub the channel out and scrub these out nice and clean. Now that you got them cleaned out or replaced, you want to also inspect and make sure they're not pitted up or bent up or anything like that. If they are, you can order a new set of these. Okay, after that's done, the next step is we're going to take the slide pins here, the top and bottom ones, and we're going to push it out like that and pull the boot up back, and then pull the pin out. And you're going to do one at a time because the pins can be different from top to bottom. So once you get the pin out, then what you do is take a rag and wipe off all the old grease. And then you can do is take a little bit of here at the shop we use a brake caliper grease called Seal Glide. It's specially designed for brakes and higher temps. So we take a little dab of that and we put that on the pins like this, and then we put it back in the boots, and then we work this grease back and forth and make sure that it's well lubricated inside and out. And once it's well lubricated like that, then you just press the pin until the boot pops back over and reseats. And you're going to do that same thing for the bottom one. Now that the hardware has been prepped and the slide pins have been prepped, we're going to put this back on the car. Before we put this back on, there's little shims that go right here, and they may have fallen out when you're working this. This one's still in there, and this one has fallen out. So you want to make sure that those shims are both in there. Now you're going to slip the caliper bracket back over. Then we're going to start the two bolts that hold the bracket on, but before we do, what I like to do is put a little bit of this Permatex blue thread locker on there. It's a glue that we put on the threads to help prevent the bolts from vibrating loose and backing back off. Now that the bolts are run all the way in, we're going to torque these down. So I printed this little diagram out here. This information is courtesy of All Data. It's a subscription-based service we use to look up specs and stuff. Okay, so the bolts, they go through the bracket here. They are torqued down to 65 foot-pounds. So you're going to set up your torque wrench. So I set up my torque wrench to 65 foot-pounds. I'm going to torque this down. When you guys are torquing these down, don't jerk the torque wrench. You want a nice, even torque like that, and that'll give you a nice, accurate torque on the bolts. So now I'm going to press the pistons back into the bore of the caliper, and I'm going to use a C-clamp into one of the old brake pads I put in here like this, and I'm just going to screw the C-clamp in like this, and that pushes the piston back into the bore. Thing you may have noticed is I didn't open the bleeder screw. I left that closed. So when we push this piston in, before we do this, we need to lower the vehicle down and remove an ounce or two of brake fluid out of the master cylinder, because the reason why is when I push this piston in, the brake fluid is going to go up the line and back into the master cylinder, and if it's over full, it'll spill out into the engine bay. So by doing it this way, without opening the bleeder screws, when we're done, we're just going to pump the brake pedal, and that's going to pump all the fluid back into the caliper and push the piston back out till it makes contact with the rotor. And doing it this way, we will not have to bleed the brake system after we're done. As a disclaimer, I always like to throw this out there. If it feels funny after we're done, I recommend you bleed the brake system. But doing it this way, you should not have to bleed the brakes at all. So after matching up our inner and outer pads with the old ones, they have these little metal tabs on here, and what they do is that the brakes wear down, this little metal tab comes in contact with the rotor and makes it squeak. So you want to line up the new one in the same position, and the one with the metal tab goes on the inside. So you just line up the little tab here and install them, and then the outer one will go on just like that. You push now that the pads are on the back of the shims, I'm going to take a little bit of this Seal Glide grease and put a thin layer on there, and this helps reduce squeaking and vibrations. So I'll put them on front and back like that. After you got a thin layer on there, then you can take the caliper, reinstall it. The slide pins you may have to push in with your fingers to get them to line up. Now we're going to take the bolts, and we're going to put a little bit of that blue thread locker on the bolts here too, and start these. And then we're going to torque these down, and we're going to use that diagram that I showed you earlier, and we're going to torque these down to, looks like 27 foot-pounds. So after setting up our torque wrench, we'll just torque these two bolts down to 27 foot-pounds. After that, we're going to duplicate the exact same process on the opposite side. Then we'll install the rear wheels and torque those down. And then we're going to lower the vehicle down, and we're going to pump that brake pedal 6 or 7 times to get that fluid back into the calipers. And once that fluid's back into the calipers, you should have a nice firm pedal. You won't have to bleed the brake system. And that'll complete the job of replacing the rear brakes, machining the rotors, or replacing the rotors on this 2012 Acura MDX. I'm Brian Eslick from How To Automotive. I'd like to thank you guys for watching my videos. Encourage you to subscribe. Invite you to head over to the howtoautomotive.com website for more valuable videos like this. And also to remind you that I will be linking up all the parts and tools that I used in this video in the description. So thank you again for watching.